like this is where you're at on it, and I'm talking to the texter, Jay, not to you, is I'd leave it up. And I mean, it's a great, I mean, just Fred Sanford had this great saying. There was a great Sanford and Son episode. I know you're an Andy Griffith guy, Jay, and I don't know how much Sanford and Son you had in your life, but
I watched a bunch of it. I used to listen to his comedy records. He was a dirty old man.
He was dirty but funny. Boy, oh boy. And there was one episode where they were worried about bills, and Fred just said, put them back in the mailbox. That was his answer. Put it back in the back. So I would just not respond and just see what happens. Let's see. I've got them coming in. A lot of people are responding. Oh, y'all are wearing me out because they're telling people to put up signs that say Trump lives matter. I heard that's pretty funny. I heard Jay. I heard you say once you can sue a bologna sandwich. Does that mean you can sue a politician?
You can say there. Hey, Bill, what does it take to file a lawsuit?
Let's see if Bell's listening. Bell might be screening telephone calls right now.
Two things to file a lawsuit.
I'm sorry, I was talking to Brian Wilson. What?
Yeah, what does it take to file a lawsuit?
It takes a crayon and $400.
That's exactly right.
And I think depending on the type of lawsuit, like the kind of legal action you're taking, that determines the color of the crayon.
So, yeah, the answer to the caller's question is you can sue anybody you want to for anything you want to. Takes two things: crayon to write out the lawsuit and $400 to file it. Doesn't mean you're going to win.
Well, that's the truth. Let me see. I'm trying to find one that we can get in here in the last minute. Question for Jay. I'll never get that one in. That's about Brink's home security. Ask that question. 0403. Ask that question next week, and I'll get to it because it is too lengthy to get to Jay on it this week. Jay, you know how much I love it. The only place I would rather be than right here on the radio with you is teeing off around right now if it was 96 degrees and with 70% relative humidity at Tunica National in Tunica, Mississippi. How about that?
I'll never do that again, but I'll meet you at that peaceful little creek behind that Waffle House any day.
I'll see you next week, my friend. Take care. Have a great weekend.
See you, buddy.
There's Jay St. Clair, our good friend, legal correspondent, life consultant, and gambling buddy. Enjoyed the feeding of the turtles a little bit more than the whooping that he received by Matt Murphy that afternoon. I didn't even bring it up while he was here because I wouldn't do that to my man Jay St. Clair. We've got another hour to go, and we're going to settle in on a couple of issues involving the United Kingdom. I need to get to this. A lot of times we look across the pond as a possible outcome as to what we could see in the United States of America in the next 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years. And I think they are a bell cow, as they say, as to what could be coming around the corner lest we stop it. Thankfully, in the United States of America, we have a few things that prevent some of the activities going on in the United Kingdom right now from happening to us, namely the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. But let me tell you something, friends. There are people that are looking to diminish or destroy that First Amendment on the basis of, quote-unquote, hate speech. We'll talk about what's happening in the UK and how it potentially could come here in a moment. One more hour to go from Twin Creeks Marina. It's Matt Murphy and the Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 2 p.m. Happy Friday. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly sunny, not quite as hot. We're at 88 degrees. A complete weekend forecast coming up. A passenger plane carrying 62 people has crashed on the outskirts of Sao Paulo, Brazil today. That's according to the Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Dramatic footage from the scene has been showing the plane's destroyed fuselage in flames on the ground. Interrupting a speech at a naval event, the president of Brazil says it appears that everyone on board the flight has died. It's not clear what has caused the crash. This still very much a developing story. President Biden, together with the leaders of Qatar and Egypt, they have now signed a joint statement calling on Israel and Hamas to resume ceasefire negotiations next week. Meanwhile, more IDF airstrikes targeting Hamas leaders inside Lebanon. Details from ABC's Tom Sufi-Burridge. He is in Tel Aviv.
The IDF confirming that they conducted an airstrike in Sidon, that's about 30 miles south of Beirut. We've had confirmation from the IDF and also from Hamas and Lebanese officials that the person killed in that attack was a member of Hamas.
And we had this story late yesterday, but it is still very much relevant. A major development happening for anyone convicted on a marijuana charge here in Tennessee. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation notifying district attorneys all over the state that the testing process in some past cases for marijuana evidence was not conclusive. This means that some marijuana convictions will now be overturned. Marijuana, of course, remains illegal here in Tennessee, but concerns over the testing of evidence has prosecutors reassessing many convictions. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
All right, friends, here we are. Here we go. It's the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's just after 2 o'clock, 2:05 to be precise, and we are broadcasting from Timms Ford Lake, Twin Creeks Marina. What a beautiful facility. What a gorgeous day. I mean, you could not ask for a better day. Just outside the entrance of Drafts and Watercrafts Restaurant. So you're invited to stop by, say hello to us, grab yourself a beverage of your choosing, maybe grab something to eat and enjoy the day. Man, oh man, it is gorgeous. The people of Winchester and generally speaking Twin Creeks, they're split. They're split on me being down here. Many of them say, thank you for coming down. Thank you for inviting us down. Thank you for being here. Thank you for promoting what is just an absolute gem in the middle of the state of Tennessee. And others are saying, would you keep the people from Nashville and around Nashville away from us? I mean, that's what I hear sometimes from time to time. One way or the other, we are pleased to be here, and we are pleased to have a guest that has joined us at the table. And his name, he tells me that I can say his name is Pete. We were going to go with Bob. But Bob, around these parts, people would misconstrue.
We don't like Bob.
We don't like Bob right now. What's going on, Pete?
Hey, how are you doing? It's great to be here. Let me tell you why I'm here.
Okay.
So I drive around a lot for work, and I listen to AM radio. And I was listening to this guy, Matt Murphy, I think it was.
Yeah, some loud mouth.
He's down at Tim's Ford Lake talking about the lake and how beautiful it is and, just everything. And I was like, I got to check this out. So the next day I booked a cabin right over here, and here we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And, I got to meet you. I walked right by you. I didn't even see you there.
No.
I thought there'd be like a big, to-do with a rope or something around you for security and all that stuff.
CJ's my security,
you
right?
might see, Bob
and
might
Kirby's
come
the backup. Look, this is the security they give me. Look how skinny he is.
He's tall.
He can get a golf ball a country mile, but he's skinny. Look at him.
Yeah, and I got to meet you and also the owner, James.
James is great.
We got to talk to him for about 10 minutes here, and he's just hanging out now just to watch me talk on the radio.
Well, let me tell you what you've done. How long have you? When did all of this start, James?
The Marina opened in 2018. The neighborhood started in 2016.
The neighborhood started in 2016. The Marina opened in 2018.
Yes.
It is unbelievable, the growth, the wonderful growth that you've seen, and just the positive energy. And look, we deal, and I'm not buttering your bread just because you're standing here, but we deal with a lot of negative stuff on the radio. We talk about a lot of negative stuff. It's kind of, what we do on a day-to-day basis. We highlight the negative. We try to accentuate the positive when the time comes. But, it's almost impossible to talk about some of these things when we're down here because it's such a laid-back deal, laid-back atmosphere. It was so good you even brought your brother.
My little brother, and I got 4 other relatives coming.
Okay.
They'll be here in about an hour. As a matter of fact, my brother-in-law is towing his boat down here from Center Hill Lake because he wants to test drive this place and possibly move his boat from there to here.
I love it.
Isn't that cool?
That is very cool. It is a beautiful. I've got to take advantage of one of the pontoons and get out on the lake. And,
hey, if you're around tomorrow, we got one.
I love that,
from
man.
10 to 5 tomorrow. So
all right, but you had a question. For
I
me.
did. I had a serious question. It's about the Olympics.
Okay.
So, what is your take on why the United States in the medal count is so far superior than any other country?
Because of freedom. All right. So, for the longest time, and it's funny you asked this because I was doing a little research on it last night because I had it on in the background, and I don't pay that much attention, but I love my country more than I hate what some have tried to do to the Olympic Games, right? And I love my country more than I dislike some of these sports. Anytime you're already ahead. If somebody's got USA on the front of their shirt, I don't care what they're doing. I'm predisposed to step up and support them, right? So there was so much controversy about the opening ceremony, and there was they cast aspersions on the Last Supper and that sort of thing. And a lot of people said, boycott the Olympics. And I look at it a little differently. I look at these people from around the United States of America, these families that have invested so much time and so much energy in following the dreams of, fostering the dreams of their young children and then following up on that fostering and following up on it and taking them to practice and taking them to this and that and the other thing and really focusing in on those things that they were better at and building that dream that they have. Why is America so good? You look back at the history of the Olympics. We were really, really good at the beginning. You know who was our number one rival at the beginning of the modern Olympics?
Modern being what year?
1896, I think it was, Athens, Greece.
Russia?
It was not. That's a great guess because Russia came along a little after that. It was Norway and Sweden.
Oh, okay.
Were really good at the Olympics for whatever reason. Germany came along, and Hitler really was fomented a sense of national pride, nationalism prior to World War II, and really built that up. And his was really focused on the whole, Aryan race type of thing. And then it was the Soviet Union, and it was such an example. And they were really, really good, and they did a really good job of doing everything in their power to get as good as possible. And they whipped us in the 1960s and 1970s. They were whooping up on the United States of America in a lot of categories in a lot of different ways. But they were cheating. All along the way they were cheating. And they represented what can happen if a dictatorship or a communist country would create a dynamic by which they forced individuals who seemed good at certain sports and certain activities into those sports and activities for the purpose of dominating the rest of the world. American dominance comes from the opposite place, right? Ours is that we live in a country that, because of capitalism, because of the free market, we have the time and ability to foster and grow sporting activities around our country that identify and find the best of the best and cultivate the best of the best. So I think it's about our freedom that sustains that. I think these communist regimes like Russia and China can kind of fake it, but we're doing it the right way, where we have the freedom and the ability to find those young individuals and to cultivate and grow and watch blossom their God-given abilities. Plus, I mean, it doesn't hurt, Pete, that our country's so big.
Diversity is key.
Absolutely.
I would say.
Absolutely.
I think the size of the country doesn't necessarily help you. I mean, China is 1.3 billion. They have 1 billion more people than we do, and they can't even get close to us. Well, they're the closest, I guess. But, and it's a homogeneous society. It's not as diverse as we are.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe that might have something.
Well, and the melting pot nature of our country as a place that people will want to come, and they have come. And frankly, some of our diversity was born out of negativity. I mean, obviously, some of our diversity came from a place, that we're a little bit ashamed of, whether it be slavery or whatever, back in our history. But that created a diversity that we now utilize to identify those people that are better at certain activities and better at certain things. And I'm not saying that is limited to any individual race or ethnicity. What I'm saying is that you bring all of those diverse individuals together from various parts of the world, and you're naturally going to be able to find people that are better at different types of sports.
Is that Bob? Bob?
It's not Bob. No, see, he just walked right on by.
Hey, Matt, can I interrupt real quick, please?
Yes, Bell.
Can we get an update on the battery for your laptop?
Oh, yeah. Belkay's very curious. So I failed to bring my charger for my laptop, which is running, well, it's not running the radio portion of the broadcast, but it's running the television side of things. It's also running every bit of information I have. And, Bell, thank you for asking.
We going to make it?
We are currently at 39%. I think we're going to make it.
45
minutes. We're going to make it.
45
minutes. We've been here for an hour and 15 minutes. So
good.
I think we're all good. We started at 96%. We're now at 39%, Bell, and it says that Zoom is using the most significant energy right now, as we might expect, because it's having to digitize this ugly face and transmit it all across the great state of Tennessee. What do you
apple juice?
No, you're not having apple juice. What are you having there?
It's a Miller Lite.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Were you ever a Bud Light guy? I mean, that's a loaded question, but it's a sincere question. I ask sincerely. I
would
drink
say
Bud Light.
if there was no Miller Lite, Michelob Light, or any other light beer, I would drink a Bud Light.
Right.
And it has to be over 90 degrees outside on a boat with no shade. So that's where I'm going with Bud Light.
I mean, did that whole thing change your attitude about it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of made me look sideways like, what are we doing here now? Are we progressing so far now that we're putting – I had a hard time with it.
I had my grandfather said this, and I forget what specific type of business we were talking about. But he made the comment, well, I don't do business with them anymore. And I was like, why is that, Pon? He goes, because they don't ask for my business anymore, right? If a company decides that they don't want your business and they actively work, well, then you don't have to be mad at them to say, okay, I'll do what you're asking me to, and I'll go elsewhere with my money. And I think it's a great example. Bud Light's a great example of that happening.
Do you drink beer?
A little bit, every once in a while.
On the air?
I drink OP.
Oh.
You know what OP is?
OP? Ocean Pacific.
Other people's.
Oh, that makes sense. You got me.
And no, Pete, I would never. You would never catch me drinking an alcoholic
What do we
beverage.
got over there?
I got my Monster Energy drink over here, my Ultra Peachy King.
Is that what we're calling it now? Monster
Yeah, that's
drink?
right. And as far as I know, there's nothing additional in it. Yeah, there's not been spiked with anything,
Okay.
so I think we're all good. You going to hang out with us for a little bit?
Sure.
What do you make of the ways of the world? Can I quiz you on all of this?
Shoot. Go ahead.
Well, I don't want. Watch out with the way you say that nowadays.
Oh,
Man.
I know.
What'd you make of that
The
assassination attempt?
it's just abomination.
Yeah.
I mean, so I was in the military, actually. I did 25 years in the Army.
Well, God bless you. Thank you
And,
for your service.
Just looking at that setup made me cringe.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, anyone with any kind of an eye for security immediately would say this is something's wrong here. Even before
You got 100
shots were fired.
135-yard direct line of sight.
I could do
But
that
that's-
with a mirror shooting backwards.
But that's outside the perimeter. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And it's hard to troubleshoot someone else's security perimeter, but it's I don't know. To me, it just stood out, and everybody I know who saw that saw it's just something wrong.
What years were you in service, if you don't mind my asking?
1989 to 2014.
What do you make of the military nowadays?
It's progressing. If you were to use that term in terms of progress,
That's
if
a
you're
way to put it.
a progressive, culturally and culturally moves forward. It progresses, and it's able to do that because we have a secure economy, a secure country. And so what else have we got to think about but what's the next thing we can do? If we were so I've been to Africa. They don't talk the way we do here about things. They're looking for their next chicken for dinner,
That's right.
Their progress is very slow. So the military, I just think, it's going to go where it goes. It changed in the 25 years I was in. It's going to change in the next 25 years. So I had a good run. I enjoyed the military, and you've got your mandatory classes, you've got your sexual harassment classes, you've got your consideration of other classes, all these different classes you've got to take when you're not in combat. And they even squeeze them in when you're in combat too, but that's a different story.
89 to 2014. So did you go overseas or did you stay home?
Yeah, Desert Storm,
Yeah.
Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan. I had 5 combat deployments.
Do you have you been following this Tim Walz deal? He was with Minnesota National Guard.
Yeah, sure.
And no one and I try to make clear, particularly because I have not served, that I am not casting any aspersion against his service. Thank you, Tim Walz, for serving our country in the Minnesota National
Absolutely.
Guard. However, a lot of service members like yourself, Pete, have kind of been a little concerned when someone did not serve in combat and they talk about, oh, this is a weapon of war like I carried while I was in battle. Using loose language like that, kind of creating an atmosphere that doesn't really represent what you did, has a lot of veterans that listen to the show like, hey, this isn't right.
Sure.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if he'd have used the word we instead of I carried it in combat, he would have been technically correct. But, it does trouble me because he's misrepresenting his service, and he doesn't have to. He's served. That's all he's got to tell people.
That's right.
I served, and he served honorably. He got an honorable discharge. I mean, why go beyond that? And it's politics. It's trying to make yourself look better. I would also say that his rank was misrepresented as well. He retired he retired a sergeant major.
Right.
No, not a sergeant major, a master sergeant. He was a command sergeant major. He's an E9. But he went to school, and my understanding is he had a 2-year commitment after school to retire as a command sergeant major.
Right.
He got out before those 2 years. So they technically took him back to an E8 master sergeant, and he retired at that rank. So was he a command sergeant major? Yes, he was. He didn't retire as that, but he was a command sergeant major.
And so when someone is within the military, would you suggest he knows very well that he didn't retire as a master?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a big ceremony you have, and they get a plaque, and it's got your rank on it.
I was trying to, while you were talking, I wasn't trying to ignore you, but while you were talking, I was trying to find this meme that Elon Musk retweeted about hard times create hard men, and it's the progression.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you were talking about, and how it is the natural cycle of things that when we live in comfortable times, we ourselves become somewhat comfortable.
Yeah.
And I've heard it suggested that, and I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on any service member individually or any group of service members, but I've had it suggested that we are growing away from a time where if we had to get in a hot war, that we would be prepared for that hot war based on our readiness at this point.
Yeah, there's if you were to look at a graph of the readiness of the military, it does kind of a sine wave, okay, based on wartime experience and peacetime.
Mm-hmm.
Peacetime, you're not as experienced at war because you're not at war. So, for example, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, we got out there and we were a little messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, we were getting lost. We were going the wrong direction. There were some friendly fire incidents. I mean, but you get better while you're there.
Right.
Just like Iraq. When we went into Iraq.
Literally trial by fire.
Absolutely. And, it happens. And then you go up, and now you're really proficient. And then you come home, and you're back to, training areas and going on field trips and stuff like that, field training exercises. And your proficiency goes down significantly. Russia just ran into the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
They went across the border. Everyone thought, oh, my God, they're going to take Kyiv in like 3 days. They got spanked.
Right.
And they're getting better. But they got spanked, and they lost a lot of soldiers.
They have the benefit of having a lot more men and a lot more time and maybe a little more money.
Yeah.
Although, we're doing our best to keep the money flow going to Ukraine, but I get what you're saying. What, from a military perspective, and just while I have you, and I don't know that you asked for all this, but I'm just a naturally curious guy. I mean, what keeps you up at night? What concerns you? Is it China?
No, I don't think China would be. To me, it's more about the leadership of our country and the direction we're going, and that we have. I'm for a limited government. I'm for closed or secure borders. The things, the policy differences in our political spectrum right now are so divisive and so great that that's what concerns me, is that the left has gone so far left. For example, Obama, when he was campaigning, said marriage is between a man and a woman.
He did.
I mean, my God, if you said that today, even as a Republican,
and that was in 2008, and he held that position throughout most of his presidency.
Absolutely. So look how far we've gone since he's been president,
right,
to where we're at today.
Right.
And that's what keeps you up at night. It's just I'm a little uneasy with where the country's going.
Pete, thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us, man.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for keeping your little brother at bay. he looks like trouble over there.
Yeah, I'm going to push him over that railing here when we get done. There's a bunch of fish down there,
Well, yeah, feed him to the fishes. See what's going on. Thank you, brother.
All right,
I appreciate you. There's our good friend Pete stopping by our broadcast. It is 2:24. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back in a moment.
We'll have more on that passenger plane crash in Brazil that has left dozens dead. And the California Camping World flag flap has been resolved. We'll have that story as well at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I cannot wait to hear from Jay Harper and his 2:30 newscast coming up in just a few minutes. Give us the resolution of a story that we were telling you about a little bit yesterday. If you've not heard the story about Camping World and the CEO taking a stand, now I don't know where the story has gone in the last 24 hours, so I will anticipate the update like you from Jay Harper. I can just relay what we knew as of yesterday regarding the story, and that was that the county where the Camping World was located told them to take down the flag because they were worried about the flagpole. They were worried about it falling over on someone else's property, which seemed like a bunch of hooey to begin with. And the Camping World folks told them to go pound sand. They weren't taking down the American flag just because you say our flagpole's not appropriate or our flagpole doesn't work or whatever. So you can, do what you got to do, but we're not doing that. And we'll find out together what the ultimate update is. Here's the quote that I was looking for, and I finally found it. And I saw this meme reposted. I've, of course, heard the quote in the past, but we were discussing this a little bit with Pete, who's a good friend of the show who stopped by, and we learned together that he served multiple decades in the military, and we appreciate him for his service and for listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. But here's the quote. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. One more time. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Where do you think we are? If you believe that cycle is true, and history would indicate that it is, where do you believe we are? I believe I'm taking a break to say hello to a dog. It's 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Quick timeout. Jay Harper's newscast coming up right now.
Good afternoon. It's 2:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly sunny, 87 degrees. We'll get you that beautiful weekend forecast here in just a bit. Well, it still is not really clear if there are any survivors after an airliner crashed in Brazil today. ABC's Alex Stone has the latest details.
It was an ATR 72, a popular short-haul regional airliner, a twin-engine turboprop that was flying to the Sao Paulo area from a region southwest of the city. Federal police say there were 62 people on board, 58 passengers and 4 crew. The plane fell close to a residential building. Witness video appears to show the plane falling and spinning out of the sky without any lift, and then a large billow of black smoke coming from where it crashed.
And this is still a developing story. And the California county that took issue with the Camping World store's 130-foot-tall flagpole, they decided yesterday to allow the pole and the flag to stay up. San Joaquin County stated its code enforcement division was discussing the pole location after becoming concerned about its foundation. The store installed it without a permit or official approval. That's according to the county. The county says its community development administrators, they looked over the plans after Camping World submitted an application, and they have determined that the pole was safe and was fine to stay right where it is. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Me. Bell K, I'm watching the funniest dynamic happening at Twin Creeks Marina and Resort, right on the docks here of Timms Ford Lake. It's pretty funny. I don't know the little guy's name, but we've got a little pug that has come to say hello to us, and little pug is also saying hello to Goober. And Goober is the largest dog I think I've ever seen in person.
Hey, Matt.
CJ, is that fair? Largest dog? And this pug is having none of it. Yes, yes, Bell, my apologies. Yes.
Allow me to cut you off.
Uh-huh.
Hold on. I timed it wrong.
Okay. I'm waiting patiently to be cut off. Oh. This is really good. Timms Ford Lake. I mean, I understand that we got a lot going on in the world, but, can we give a moment? No, turn it up, Bell, turn it up. I just want to spend a moment and enjoy this state of Tennessee, enjoy Winchester, enjoy Twin Creeks Marina. The sky is blue. The clouds are fluffy and white. The day is beautiful. The humidity is low. I mean, there are people on the water. There are folks that have just had some food from drafts and watercrafts. We got the biggest dog I've ever seen in my life on the dock, and it's Friday. I mean, so good. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and I try to do this every week. I forget from time to time, but I want to thank all of you weekend warriors that make our weekends possible, whether you're a firefighter, a police officer, a doctor, a nurse, an EMT, a restaurateur, a convenience store worker. If you're working on a Saturday or a Sunday, for those of us who don't typically, you make our weekend special, and we thank you for that. Now, let me give you the rundown. So, what was her name? Sherry? Was that right? Sherry came by and brought Goober by. Goober is an English Mastiff, and Sherry said that she and Goober came by specifically to meet me, to say hello to me. Sherry offered words of condolence when we lost to John Henry this past late winter, I guess it was February, where we had to say goodbye to John Henry, who was 13 years of age. Now, John Henry, at his biggest, was about 130 pounds. At his heaviest, he was about 130 pounds, and he had slimmed down. Man, he was like 110 by the time that he passed away. Goober Bell, and I don't know, CJ's got photos of it, and we'll get those photos up on our social media platforms. Bell, Goober weighs 225 pounds.
Does Goober have a cousin named Gomer?
That's a good question. or, I don't know. But Goober might, I'll call Sarah, and she'll get me Mount Pilot, and I'll find out. But Goober looks to have anything that he wants to have. He has a water cooler that is the size of a mid-range, drink cooler that Sherry was carrying around for him to give him water, but he's a big old boy, and he came out to say hello to us, and we'll put up some pictures on social media at Matt Murphy Show or at any of the Super Talk 99.7 WTN sites to let you know. But while we were sitting here talking to Sherry about Goober, he's 3, 225 pounds, English Mastiff, huge dog, looks supersized. CJ noted that he was heavier than Traylon Burks. I mean, probably heavier than all the wide receivers, really. 225, yeah, that would make sense. I think I've got him by 5 pounds. Bell, you said Goober's got you by a couple of pounds as of this morning?
Yeah, 3. Yesterday I weighed, and it was 222.
Yeah, well, that means I've got to lose some weight to get behind you. But one way or the other, Goober's out, and we would love to see you out as well. All right, a couple of things that we'll get to, and obviously we've got Brian Wilson on the line, and we'll get to him in just a couple of minutes. But I promised you that I would get to what is going on in the UK. Bell, you might not remember, but a couple of weeks ago, we had something happen, and I want to say that it was on a Friday. It was July 29th when B.B. King, 6 years of age, Elsie Stancombe, 7 years of age, and Alice De Silva Aguilar, 9 years of age, were killed in a knife attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance and yoga event. 8 other children and 2 other adults were injured, and these 3 youngsters were killed on July 29th. And if I pull up the old calendar, there goes Goober. Hey, Bell
July
wanted to know.
29th
Hey,
was a
Sherry,
Monday.
Bell wanted to know if Goober has a brother named Gomer. No.
A sister named Lola.
A sister named Lola. Lola. That would have been
A Monday.
a Monday. But I remember at the end of the show, Bell, I said I would predict, and we had just learned of this knife attack, and I predicted that without knowing anything else about it, that a Muslim would be responsible for the knife attack. And it turned out I was correct. And I don't say that in order to necessarily profile, except to say that it has become increasingly obvious the migration problem that the residents of England have, and how some that are migrating to England want to bring their fanatical religious beliefs with them and refuse to absorb themselves into the fabric of what one would consider to be British society. Police have arrested a 17-year-old from a village nearby. Now, I'm reading from the BBC website here, so it's a little difficult to get some of the true info because they sanitize it for our own protection. Later that day, police say they had arrested a 17-year-old from a village nearby and that they did not treat the incident as terrorism-related. Almost immediately after the attack, social media posts speculated that the suspect was an asylum seeker who arrived in the UK on a boat in 2023. They gave him an incorrect name. There were also, quote, unfounded rumors that he was a Muslim. In fact, as the BBC and other media outlets have reported, the suspect was born in Wales to Rwandan parents. Police urged the public not to spread unconfirmed speculation and false information. They immediately went into damage control mode, in other words. Following the event, the next evening, more than 1,000 people attended a vigil for the victims in Southport. Later on, violence broke out near a local mosque. Police threw bricks, bottles, and other missiles at the mosque and police. The police van was set alight, and 27 officers were taken to the hospital. There have now been numerous gatherings, protests that have broken out into violence as the police attempt to squash the protest. Secondarily, the police seem more concerned about what is growing concern within their community over how they're handling these incidents and how the incidents themselves are growing in regularity than there is in actually stopping the incidents from happening at all. To the point that the UK has now drawn fire, figuratively, by declaring on social media, specifically on the X machine, and I have reposted it for those who want to go to my site, at Matt Murphy Show, where the government website of the UK has posted that you better start thinking before you post content that, quote, incites violence or hatred. It isn't just harmful, it can be illegal. According to the Crown Prosecution Service, it takes online violence very seriously and will prosecute when the legal test is met. Remind those close to you to share responsibly or face the consequences. So the police don't seem, maybe they are and they're being unfairly treated, they don't seem very concerned with the unrest in Southport and Manchester and London and Hartlepool and other areas around the United Kingdom as a result of what is a growing concern of violence against native-born Englanders, native-born individuals in Great Britain and beyond, from those who were born in other parts of the world and migrated, either their parents or themselves, migrated to that part of the country. So because the media in the UK is prevented from doing so, and because the authorities refuse to identify potential motives behind this attack, what do I always say? An absence of information leads to speculation. And the speculation is that clearly this individual was motivated by hatred of what would be commonplace occurrences in Great Britain and was motivated in some way by a religious fanaticism. That is the belief amongst people that are on the ground who say that they believe they know exactly what happened, but the authorities aren't saying any of this. And so that speculation has grown widespread on social media circles, And they're literally, the UK is literally going to people's homes and arresting people for having an opinion about all of this online. Now, we enjoy the protection of the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. And I would suggest to you the only reason that we've not seen some of these draconian hate speech laws like we see in Canada, like we see in Great Britain, the only reason we don't see that in the United States of America is because we are being protected from it by the First Amendment, that pesky First Amendment. When will anyone, have the opportunity to ask Kamala Harris where she is on a limitation of the ability to provide, let's call it misinformation. Do you believe that people should be able to spread misinformation on social media? That's the question.
Well, can you define misinformation for us?
There you go, Bell. Just erroneous. Should Matt Murphy be able to say that Bell K? Oh, I was trying to think of an example. Should I just be able to spread misinformation on social media? And so the question then becomes: define misinformation, and what does that look like? Because I would suggest to you that I should be certainly allowed to spread misinformation if I so desire. It is up to the receiver to determine for themselves whether or not they believe said information is true or false and to do their own homework. More importantly, though, they are suggesting in the UK that I'm not allowed to spread information that would, quote, incite violence or create anger amongst the receiver. Well, how the hell am I supposed to know what's going to incite violence? How the hell am I supposed to know what is going to create, quote, hatred? They're saying that my comments that might lead someone to get angry over those comments should be and are in the UK illegal. I would suggest we might think before we become those countries that we suggest we detest, like Venezuela, like Cuba, like Russia, like China, like North Korea. Nations that are secure, but they don't have a hell of a lot of freedom.
Matt, if you share something and in your heart of hearts you believe it to be factually 100% correct, but later on it turns out that you were wrong, it was not correct, were you sharing misinformation at that time?
No. You were sharing misinformation, but what you made was a mistake. So what you're doing, you're identifying the difference between a mistake and a lie, right? So a lie is something that you know not to be true at the time that you say it. So if I told you that it was raining cats and dogs at Timms Ford Lake right now, I would be engaging in a lie because I'm looking. And I have the empirical data before my very eyes that it is, in fact, not raining where I'm at Twin Creeks Marina. But if I were to say to you, I think it's going to rain in about an hour, I have that on good authority, and it doesn't, well, I was just mistaken. I'm not telling a lie. Obviously, the danger in the government of any country determining what is and is not a mistake, what does or does not incite violence or hatred, this entire concept of hate speech, and the ability for the government to, quote-unquote, regulate hate speech, you better be careful asking the government what it defines as hate speech and doesn't. Because very, very, very quickly, in every incidents that you can think of, the government very swiftly denotes that hate speech is going to be anything directed toward that same government. In other words, they move to protect themselves very, very quickly from criticism or reprisal once they have the ability to limit your opportunity to speak truth to power. And that's what that's all about in the UK. And I'm happy for the people that are standing up against the authorities. I'm happy for the people that are standing up against what is ultimately a tyrannical government. And we need to see it continue. It is 2:51, almost 2:52 on Super Talk. We'll stop down and check in with Brian Wilson next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.